This is the rhythm of the night.
Hey guys, Infiniti here, and this is the first episode, obviously. That's how it says episode 2 actually, because, yeah. Oh, anyway. Of how you guys can improve your channel, or how you guys can improve your commentating skill and things like that. And this episode, as you'll probably see from the title, is how you can improve your commentating skill. Now, as I was saying when I was doing the channel reviews, a lot of people complimenting me on my commentating skill. Now, when I hear other people try and commentate, and they're not as good as me, it annoys me. To be honest, it annoys me. I wish I had a lower view because I do a... No, I don't. But, yeah, it does. It kind of stresses me just because a lot of people use fillers and a lot of people stutter and and obviously when you have when you actually have a stutter, you can't really do much about it. But a lot of people use fillers, a lot of people use like, a lot of people use and now there's going to be someone that counts all of the and likes that I put in this. But when people do that, it splits your speech massively. Now, you hear people in class and things like that, and they'll go, when they're talking to the teacher, and be like, and it really stutters your speech up, and it makes it a lot harder to follow your speech when you use fillers, which is what they're called, fillers, when you use like and but and things like that. But, as I use but there's going to be a lot of buts there for trying to explain it. A lot of people use too many in a row, so it splits up their speech massively, and it does make it unbelievably hard to follow. It makes it very hard to understand what they're trying to say, because it's constantly, every few words, it's constantly split up by another word which doesn't need to be there. So there's a few ways which you can improve your speech and how you can be a more confident speaker, and it's not really just based on YouTube. It could be for live streaming, it could be for talking in front of a crowd. Now, up until pretty much until I started YouTube, I had really bad stage fright, and I still kind of have stage fright now, but it's not really a fear that comes to light much because I don't really stand in front of a stage much. But this has definitely helped because I used to not stand. I just couldn't talk in front of people at all. I was so unconfident with speaking in front of sort of a group of people over 5 or 6. It was just, I just couldn't stand doing it. And the way that you can improve on that is that you're going to look like a proper weirdo when you're doing it, and if you do get caught doing it, you're going to look like a complete freak to the people that see you. But the way that really does help is that you're seeing people like Jev's videos, and he just basically uses flashback recording, but I think he'll probably use like OBS or XSplit to record, so he'll just constantly be recording, and then he'll cut up the bits that he finds the best and put them into a video. Now, if he had a video where he literally just raged and used the 2 or 3 second clip of him raging, that would be a lot of raging in the sort of 2 or 3 minute videos he does. So what he does when he's playing is he constantly talks. He's constantly talking about what he's doing, so playing competitive Call of Duty probably also helps that, because when you're playing competitive Call of Duty, these will all link together, I'm not just saying random stuff. When you're playing competitive Call of Duty, you've got to constantly be saying, guy at B dom or back C, and you've got to be constantly saying all of the different things of what's happening on the map or in the time that you're seeing it. And the more you do talk when you're playing competitive Call of Duty, and the more you do talk in competitive anything, I believe, I don't really watch anything other than competitive Call of Duty, it would improve your skill to communicate with people, because you're constantly communicating about what's happening. Now, in a video, if I'm doing that, and you'll see in my videos, if I see someone, but I dodge away from it, and then I'll come back to it, in the time that I'm dodging away from it, I will say I have seen him, just to kind of let you guys know that I have seen him. But if I didn't say that, there'll be someone that's very button happy, I suppose you could say, in the comment section that'll be like, oh, there was a guy at 5 minutes 6 that you should have seen, but you didn't. And it kind of lets you out of annoyances like that, but it also gives a constant thing to talk about. Now, if you have topics in the videos, now that's one thing I really struggle about. I struggle with finding topics for videos, because you just run out. You just run out of topics to talk about, because there's only a certain amount of thing which your subscribers would be interested in for a certain amount of time. So when you can talk about anything that you see, so you'll see in some videos, like, I use Jev as a lot of example because he does pretty much everything absolutely perfect for learning how to commentate. And in the first, the first 5 clips, you'll see something that'll annoy him, and then for the rest of the 2 or 3 minute video, he'll expand on that massively. Now that's pretty much exactly what you need to do to commentate. So when you're talking about it, rather than just sort of saying, I used a blue pen today in school, explain why you used a blue pen today in school. Say, because I left my other pen at home, I had to borrow it from my friend, and I borrowed it in the 3rd period because I know in the 4th period, if I didn't have a pen, I'm going to get a detention. I'd use that as an example because in our school they're ridiculous on school rules. But just expand on everything that you talk about, because it does help massively when you're doing it. And this is the one that you'll look like a proper weirdo if you get caught doing it in real life. But when you're doing something, and as much as you would like a complete idiot, as I've said, if you're making a cup of tea, if you're from England, if you're making a coffee from America, or anything, if you're making your dinner, just sort of say, just like talk about what you're doing. So you put on the kettle, right? I'm putting on the kettle, and everything you do, just talk about it. Because when you do that, all the way through this video, you could probably count on one hand of how many times I've used but, and and. Now, once I've finished saying them, I end up using them a lot. But perfect example. When you shut up Facebook, when you use everyday speech in your videos, and one thing that I find really annoying is when you talk to someone and it's a word that you've recently learned and you use it. It's just something you do. If it's a really long and intelligent word, as soon as you've learned how to properly use it, you use it a lot. Now, then when you say it to someone and they're just like, oh, look at that, oh, look at you using that word, that's a big word, and it's just like, what a pointless thing to point out. That's pretty much exactly what you need to do. Now, how boring would a conversation be if you don't point out the little things? It would be like, I saw you yesterday. That'd be it. You wouldn't ask where, or who was I with, or what time, or all of these things. You wouldn't ask them. You just sort of leave it at that they saw you yesterday. And you wouldn't actually gain anything from that. What would you gain from that other than being aware that they saw you yesterday? So you should always expand on what you're trying to say. So, in this video, if I wasn't expanding on why you should talk when you're making a cup of tea, you'd find it completely pointless. You'd just be like, well, why do I need to know why does someone need to know when I'm putting on the kettle? It's just a complete useless thing that you need to know. But it's not that is important. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You could be talking about what size wattage your power supply has while cooking your chips. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, and I'd come up with a lot of random examples, I'm aware of that. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, just as long as you can constantly talk and you do have the skill to just talk for long periods of time. Now, a lot of people find that annoying, but if I was to sit here and record this video and I just went silent for 10 seconds, people would go away from the video, because who wants to watch just a silent part in a video? They don't. So in a conversation, who wants to just listen to a silent part? Like, you don't have a conversation and suddenly all stop talking for 20-30 seconds and then resume. It just seems weird. So if you can have the skill to be constantly talking and to constantly talk, it will help you a lot. Because if you go into an interview room, and I think it's just taking little bits of knowledge from everyone that I've heard this, if you went into an interview room, I'm 14, I've obviously never done that, and you can put yourself across very well and you talk very formally and you can talk for long periods of time, there's probably more of a chance, unless you're unbelievably annoying while doing so, there's probably more of a chance of you actually getting picked for that job just because you're more confident in yourself. And if you're not confident in yourself, the chances are, I mean, they still might choose you. There's always that possibility. There's always going to be a possibility. But if someone comes across confident, you'd probably prefer to choose them, just because they're more confident in themselves. They'll probably be able to prove their point better. I watched a film yesterday called God's Not Dead. Now, I'm not religious, I'm an atheist, and that film, when I first saw it, I was like, that's going to completely bore me, but I had nothing to do. So I watched the film, and in that film, it was about a student going against his university lecturer. I think that's how you say it plurally. Lecturer, I think. I don't know. I really don't know. And he was trying to go against him, trying to prove his teacher, I'm just going to call him a teacher, that God isn't dead. Now, I'm an atheist, so I have a neutral opinion on that. Like, obviously, if you think God is dead, it's your belief. If you think he's still alive and you're a Christian, it's your belief. I don't really care for either. But he was trying to prove himself against that. And the only reason why he could prove himself against that, and at the end of it, he was asking, like, why do you hate God? Why do you hate God? And then when he explained why he hated God, he was like, well, how can you hate someone that's dead? How can you hate someone that doesn't exist? And he completely turned it around on himself. Now, if he wouldn't have made him expand on what he was saying, there would have been no point to that film. No point whatsoever. So, basically, what this past 5 minutes of the video has been is, if you want to become a more confident commentator, you need to learn to expand on things. You can't just say very basic things like, this video is 10 minutes 25 long. You can't just say very short and basic things like that, because it's not going to get you anywhere. Because if you record, I think the average watch time, which I've gone completely over now for a video, is something like 6 minutes 37. So if you can only say, like, how long did it take me to say I'm recording a video? 2 or 3 seconds. Now, if you try and fit that into a 6-minute video, that is a lot of 2 or 3 second topics. Whereas if you can make one topic last more than 6 minutes, okay, some people might not watch over the 6 minutes, except you can make sure that you have expanded on it massively. And as you guys might, most of you will probably just take away from this, right, okay, well, now I know how to talk, and now I know how to commentate when I'm turning on my kettle. It's not just that you've learned, it's the skill to be able to talk for long periods of time and not stutter. Now, I find it really annoying, unless people have an actual stutter and they have been sort of like medically diagnosed with a stutter. I find it so annoying when someone uses and they just use all of the fillers in that is actually possible. It really does annoy me, just because there's no need for it to be there. And I think I might have said it at the start of the video, the school radio that we have at school, every single person on there stutters. I haven't heard one person on this radio that doesn't use fillers, and it is really annoying. And commentating isn't a hard skill to have. It isn't a hard skill to pick up, and it isn't a hard skill to learn. So I hope some of you guys that are out there that want to learn how to commentate, that want to learn how to be a YouTuber, that want to be a commentator, that want to be a live streamer, that want to stand in front of crowds, that want to be a university lecturer or a teacher or any of them things, I hope I could have helped you a little bit in this video. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later. Goodbye.
My life's a board game, but I'm never